this is a story that I actually tell a lot of students here because I think my entry or my introduction to you, the path that I got to meeting you and going to TRI, just like there was a gem that of an experience or a lesson that I love to share. So
Maybe we'll just start off with just a quick introduction of who you are, um, and where you are. This is a great setting that you have in the background. Yeah, why don't we
oh,
start there?
thank you. Thanks, Tilak, and thank you to for everyone that's watching or listening. So my name is Ahmed, as you can see on the video. I did my undergrad at Waterloo back in 2009. So I did mechanical engineering. In 2014, when I graduated, I from my undergrad I really learned that I love two things. I love to design and build stuff, but I also love to help people. So, long story short, I met Tilak, and he welcomed me to TRI through UHN, which is affiliated with UFT. Welcomed me with open arms. He saw my project from my fourth year design project at the University of Waterloo. I built an exercise machine to help people that are paraplegic with promoting blood flow. At TRI, which I joined in 2014, I was working on a sit and stand project where I developed or designed and built an armrest apparatus to help older adults that were having lower mobility issues when sitting and standing. I really loved the experience at TRI. I really loved working with older adults. Through my experience at U of T as well, I really found out how passionate I am in teaching. So from my experience at U of T, I then you know discovered this opportunity at the University of Guelph, also through the help of Tilak for his recommendation. So thanks, Tilak. And I'm sort of at a point in my life where I'm at Zen, where I'm doing something that I love, where my career is enabling me to use my degree, to problem solve and work with machines, while also help and teach students. I really love mentorship and just that the pedagogical aspect of engineering, so mentoring and coaching students through different projects, especially motion capture. So as you can see right now, I am in a motion capture lab at the Biomedical Engineering Department here at the University of Guelph. So my job here is I'm a lab coordinator where I assist various professors in about half a dozen courses through lab maintenance, running the safety orientations for undergrad and graduate students, supervising TAs, upgrading components, also teaching labs. So my role also involves providing sort of instructional support for a lot of the labs, especially for a complex lab like this one right here, where we have Vicon components, we have EMGs, we have different instruments in the lab, and so safety and proper instruction is important. Recently, I gained my PEng through this experience as well. So really happy that I'm sort of doing a balance of engineering and teaching. Not sure if that was too much, but I can keep on going.
Yeah. Here, let's dig. I mean, you talked about a lot there. That's fantastic. The yeah. So I was actually just looking back into my CV. I had to remind myself what year you were actually with us and how long it's been. It's
Mhm.
been 5 years since you left, so it's kind of a nice
Yeah,
anniversary.
yeah,
That you finished your master's, and it was. I looked up. It's a master in your master of applied science in the mechanical engineering
that's right.
department. And I also just noticed you got the Barbara and Frank Milligan Graduate Fellowship while you
Well,
were here. You won that, so that was
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's a very prestigious award
Thank
that
you,
you got.
Tilak. Yeah. Um,
And I think the one thing that I remember when you came through, was it through James Tung that sent? Did
so,
you?
maybe I can mention this too, but
Yeah. Like, I think part of what I want to get at here is how, undergrad students who are thinking about graduate degree, what kinds of things they should be doing to find a
for sure.
potential supervisor. I can tell you what I noticed right away about your application and when you sent stuff over to me. But you tell me how, what you would recommend to maybe for undergrads thinking about grad school.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks for bringing that up. This is a story that I actually tell a lot of students here because I think my entry or my introduction to you, the path that I got to meeting you and going to TRI, just like there were a lot of there was a gem of an experience or a lesson that I love to share. So I often tell students that we're living in a world where unfortunately it's not always about what you know but who you know. So I always tell students that networking, like utilize the network effect. So when I graduated in 2014 in Waterloo, I pretty much was hopeless. I didn't know where to go. They were just I just like I mentioned, I just knew that I love to design and build stuff and that I love to help people. Doing a graduate program was not even on my mind because to be very transparent here, I wasn't always an A student. So like the I just felt like, oh, my marks weren't the greatest, therefore I am not cut up to be a master's student. Unfortunately, you can be conditioned to think that way. Unfortunately, universities and marks and exams have a way of conditioning you to think less of yourself if all you see yourself as just some number or a grade. Unfortunately, but I want you to invite all the listeners to think, that's not right. You are a lot more than what your transcript says about you. So how I got to, I think it's just a matter of grit and character. So essentially, how I got to meet Tilak and TRI. So there were a series of four individuals. So in 2014, when I was sort of hopeless with my graduate degree from Waterloo, I didn't know where to go. The first thing I thought about reaching out to was my fourth year design project supervisor. So this was John. I sent him a simple one-liner email. I said, "Hi John, this is Ahmed. I was your student in this course, and you were also my supervisor. I just wanted to ask you if you have any graduate positions available. I really enjoyed working with you." Send. John responds back saying, "Hey Ahmed, thanks for the email. As much as I would love to have you on board, your transcript, doesn't really fit the criteria that we're looking for. So unfortunately, I don't think you would be a good fit with your grades. However, there's this guy that just joined the mechatronics department. I think your skill set matches the kind of student he's looking for." So this guy's name is James Tung. So number one with John, number two with James Tung. I meet with James like 2 weeks later. He's a fresh faculty, really excited, really loved my fourth year design project. He said, "I'd love to have you. Unfortunately, I don't have funding just yet. So I don't have funding to support you. So I can't bring you on. However, I know this guy. His name is Milos Popovic. He's a At the time he was a chair of spinal cord research at TRI, I believe. Uh, Correct me if I'm wrong, Tilak. So James connects me with Milos, guy number three. Milos was such a humble guy that he met me. Like I'm like, this guy is the chair, and he meets like this hopeless new grad. So I remember Milos sitting with me in the lobby of TRI. I tell him about my work. I tell him about my fourth year design project. Show him my cool apparatus. He's like, "Wow, I mean, this is really cool. However, I'd love to have you, but my research is kind of like not in line with yours, but or like not in line with your sort of skill set. But I know this guy on the 13th floor. His name is Tilak. Let's go see him right now." So this is guy number four, named Tilak. I go and see him on the same day. Milos walks me to the 13th floor, and Tilak was fortunately available. I sit down with him. 10 minutes into my introduction, a little bit of back and forth, and Tilak welcomed me with open arms. And I think for me, like I would have never been able to find out about that opportunity had I not sent that one-liner email to John, who actually, kind of rejected me, but still offered me a helping hand. Hey, meet this guy. So I guess the moral of the story is utilize the network effect and don't be afraid to ask. I think a lot of us, we're too afraid of rejection, but you never know what that one-liner email can take you. So that was sort of how I got to TRI.
I feel like we should mention John's last name just so we can tag
Okay,
him in
his name is
episode.
Professor John Medley from
Medley.
from
Okay.
uh, from University of Waterloo. John Medley, great guy.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
great. That's quite the story. I didn't know all that. I
yeah,
didn't know that that was the journey you went on to get here. Yeah,
yeah.
I can tell you that after I started talking with you, I'll be honest. I don't think in that 10-minute conversation, I don't know that I had made the decision that I have to have this guy as part of the team. But your enthusiasm was infectious. Like that was fantastic. You were clearly very excited about doing something in this area. And the I can't remember if you sent me if you had pictures of your design, your fourth year design
Yeah,
project, or
yeah.
like you might have even had something with pictures of it
I
that
actually printed them out and I
right,
showed them to you.
right,
Um, yeah, so I think one thing that I also want to mention is that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So
yeah,
whenever you go out and meet people at interviews, like show them a picture. Show
yeah.
them like if you have a portfolio, like have all your projects like pictures, videos. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and a video is 1,000 pictures worth millions of words. So I think
That's
yeah,
yeah. That's what I remember the video. That's what I was just thinking. Is I remember
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
after we chatted, you told me about this great project, and I was really intrigued. Like clearly, if you were involved in building this thing, this device, it was like you've got great hand skills, great building skills. Um, which is rare, right? For undergrad students,
Mhm.
a lot of engineering students, have struggle really if they have to put, a, two bolts together. Like it's really
Yeah,
challenging for people to be able
yeah,
to build things for real, and
yeah,
people require a lot of support. But right away, I could see from the picture that you had that, and
yeah.
then you sent me the video of the thing working, and I think it was even someone, the participant that you had demonstrating the use of the
Right.
device was someone we knew
Yeah.
from
So
trauma rehab.
it was Jason Angel. Yeah,
Right.
Jason. He was paraplegic, and I remember that he also worked with TRI.
And so
So
that
it
was
was
another neat
amazing
connection.
how everything just connects. Yeah,
It's a small world. This
yeah,
that's the other thing you learn quickly, right? In doing this stuff as you experienced is that it's a small world, and you never know when someone will have will make a connection for you, right? That
I
can
agree.
move you
I agree.
forward. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
definitely watching that video and going, and I think I had a quick chat with James because he'd met with you, and it was clear that yeah, this guy, despite the fact that, and I honestly don't remember now, I don't have this real memory of what your CV, what your marks were exactly, but
yeah.
would you mind sharing for other students, like what range, do you
I
remember
was
what
an
your
average. I would say like I mean I met the passing grade. Like I was always like a 75% student. I
okay,
mean there were like at the end of the year I sort of got better grades like in the 80s. If I
yeah,
was lucky, maybe a few 90s. But I was always like because Waterloo the competitive nature of of the program, I
yeah,
always felt like I was always like above average or average. Like I did meet the passing grade for UFT, which
yeah,
I think was a B plus. I'm not sure, but
yeah,
yeah, I always thought that you needed like a 95% or like a 90 above average, but I realized wow, I did meet the actual uh, cutoff mark for UFT, and it just made sense for me to join TRI because I love to design and build stuff, and I love to help people, and so. I didn't want to do any other grad opportunity because whenever I walk the hallways at University of Waterloo and just see the posters like of previous masters and PhD students. I just don't know how someone would dedicate like 4 years of their life studying the strain on like an aluminum alloy. It's like that's just so vague for me. Like people dedicating so many years of their life studying the material properties of a zinc alloys. Like wow, like that just wasn't for me. Because of my personality, like I know who I am. Like I'm always big picture, and I'm always like value oriented. Like
hmm
TRI was the right fit for me. Just the rehabilitation space, rehabilitation engineering space, just made a lot of sense for me. So it was easy for me to just, you know, approach that position at TRI and make the effort to meet you. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Yeah. So then, if we move forward from there, what you touched on, you summarized this really well. Like you had an opportunity to get involved with some teaching in it, and I remember seeing you come alive through that.
Mhm.
I can't remember if it was a 1 week or 2 week kind of thing. It was really cool to watch you go through
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Do you want to just talk about that in a bit more
for
detail
sure.
and what you
Uh,
what you
for
whether
sure.
you would, I guess, whether you would recommend that to someone as part of their, someone who's doing their master's or PhD.
For sure. So while I was a grad student at TRI, there's this amazing fellow. Her name is Vicky Komizar. I'm sure you know her, Tilak.
Yeah.
Vicky now is a professor at the I think University of British Columbia, I believe.
hmm
Such an
So,
amazing student. Um,
SFU. I think she's at SFU
SFU.
now. Simon
Okay.
Fraser. Yeah.
So Vicky was enrolled in this summer camp program that's affiliated through UFT Engineering. It was called the Deep Summer Academy. Uh, I think it was called which and the D stands for Da Vinci. So I was really intrigued because I knew that I did take on a couple of TA opportunities at U of T, just because I needed the money. Like living in Toronto, like you needed the extra income to afford rent and food and such to survive. But then I just found that wow, I really love that TA opportunity. I just really enjoyed TAing students. I was always a quiet guy in my undergrad. I didn't think that I would ever find so much energy in teaching, but taking on that TA opportunity, which I think taking on a TA opportunity, obviously it's almost a must for all grad students, just because the income really helps, and I think it's also part of the program. But talking about deep, I just felt like I really needed to be part of this summer camp, because through my passion of teaching and learning about myself, and just working with kids, introducing them to engineering, also bringing them to TRI, and just made a lot of sense for me. Now, whether I don't know if I would recommend all grad students to sort of just throw themselves into these great opportunities, because I think it really comes down to who you are as a person. For me, like, if I mean, I think there's a lot of extracurricular activities you can participate in, and overtake, and take on during your grad studies. I think you just have to sort of think about, like, how it's going to sort of balance with your schedule. And obviously, your degree requirements come first, so your courses, and making sure you fulfill the rights for your supervisor and your research. But if you have that extra time, like, extracurricular activities will do wonders for your mental health while you're a grad student. So I just felt like this extracurricular activity of being part of an engineering summer camp for kids, it made a lot of sense for me, because it sort of made sense to who I am as a person. So I think just do a little bit of a self-assessment. You could be an introvert. Maybe teaching is not your thing. That's totally fine. There's a lot of other clubs where you can sort of design and build stuff and work with a sort of like-minded people. But I would say it made a lot of sense for me. And through a little self-awareness and knowing who you are as a person, you'll be able to know what kind of clubs and what kind of extracurricular activities to join during your grad studies.
Nice. Yeah, yeah. And what I remember of your experience of it, it was pretty intensive, right? Like it was, you basically had to drop
Yeah.
everything for like, what was it 1 week or two
So
weeks?
it was like a 1 week,
One
like
week.
really intense program, like you said.
Yeah.
So I would say the planning was sort of like part time for 2 months, but then when it came down to it, I was like, I would get up at 7 a.m. and come back at 7 p.m.
Yeah.
It's there's a such they're amazing people. I'm not sure if Darley Gerard is still there, but if you look up the Da Vinci engineering program at U of
Mhm.
T, you'll be able to see their. I think it was Don Britton and Darley Gerard. Amazing people. So if that's of interest to you, I definitely suggest you look them up. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it was a
Great,
1 week intensive. Yeah.
great,
I
great
I also
advice.
made a video on YouTube. It almost has like I think past 500 views, but I talk about the entire experience. If you search my name, Deep
I'll
Engineering Summer Academy, you'll see like a video of the 7 day. I think it was a 5 day program. Yeah,
I'll try to link that in the YouTube version of this. We'll put a link
nice.
in
Yeah,
at the bottom there. Yeah, awesome.
perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So that sounds like a good experience you had there. Um, I guess and the last thing I wanted to just ask you. Well, actually, I had two more things. One is your yeah. So after you finished your master's successfully, and then you started looking for work. How did that process go? I don't know how much how
Yeah,
soon into that process did you jump into this job, or
yeah,
do you have any recommendations for
for
students
sure.
in that
So
position?
yeah, I decided. I think I started looking for work like 6 months before I graduated. Like, I think I was graduating uh, April 20. I think it was, yeah. I defended January 2017. I started looking for. I started my job hunt seriously about 5 to 6 months before that.
Mhm.
So a lot of that involved obviously the Indeed course, the Indeed route, applying to jobs through Indeed. Then LinkedIn. LinkedIn was great too. I utilized LinkedIn to reach out to recruiters, reach out to also peers that are working in different companies and asking them for introductions or asking them just how it felt, like how it was like working at the company. Um, and I think so. The University of Guelph job was posted for quite some time, and I didn't want to apply for it. Believe it or not, I fell in love with Toronto so much that I didn't want to go live out in the country. Like, if you look at Guelph on the map, like it's just like a city surrounded by green. It's like population of 130,000. I wouldn't say it's surrounded by country, but it's definitely like multiple times like much smaller than Toronto. I fell in love with Toronto in like the subway life, hopping on the subway and then exiting into a new world at each stop, going to different coffee joints at night. Then you come to Guelph and there's like one ice cream store that's open until 7 p.m. But so then my first reaction when I saw that job post, like I'm not applying, to that lab coordinator position at Guelph, skip. So I put it on the side,
Yeah.
and then believe it or not, like that job was vacant for 4 months. And then for that 4 months, I was like insisting that I would get some kind of job at Toronto, like engineering in Toronto. I was like, I'm gonna apply to all the medical companies here in Toronto, like, and I'm gonna get a. I had some interviews, but for some reason, no luck.
Right.
And then 4 months later, I was like, you know what? Okay, fine. Let me just read this job description. And I think Tilak, you actually had a conversation with Michelle Oliver,
Yes.
who reached out to you,
I think she
and
was looking. Yeah, I guess because maybe it was taking a while. She'd sent an email to a few
yeah, so
people.
she reached out to me,
Yeah.
and I felt like, you know what? Fine. Let me give this a shot. I went over the job description. I was thinking about it. I found that maybe the pay wasn't the greatest, but what it offered was something else that I valued more than pay, and it was work-life balance. You know, reading through the job description, I felt like, wow, this job description really covers a lot of things that I'm passionate about. There's a lot of teaching, there's engineering, there's motion capture, which I have a lot of experience with, and which I fell in love with at TRI. It almost had the whole thing. Just the only thing that was pulling me back was the fact that I was in Guelph. But sooner or later, I think Emily King, she also like talked to me about it. It's like, you know what, I think it's a good opportunity for you. So Emily
Yeah.
King, for those who don't know, she was also a postdoc fellow at TRI. Was that correct?
That's right.
Talat?
That's right. She did her
Yeah, yeah,
PhD and her
yeah.
postdoc. Yeah, that's right.
So a few people talked to me about talked me through it, and just saw that I would be a good fit for this. Dan Vina, who was
Yeah.
also a PhD student, also like said it was a good fit for me. A lot of the TRI family was most like a family. Like with time they all start to get to know you, and we had a lot of sushi days. We had a lot of days where we go out and just get to know one another. That's one thing I really miss, by the way. Like Tilak, when you led those team meetings and we had those outings to celebrate different graduations. And I really love the family culture you fostered. So thanks for that. It really created a very easy mentorship experience with a lot of the people there. So long story short, just that was a quick tangent. I decided to take that golf job another look. I applied for it. I came here at the university. They really loved what I did at TRI, and again, it was an easy yes for them because I met the job description. And coming to Guelph, although during that first year was very difficult. It's just like very quiet here, especially for a single guy. That doesn't drink. So it was a very tough year because there was I didn't sure it was the job was great, but when the job ended at 5 o'clock, I was like pulling my hair. I
Yeah.
had no idea what to do. So that's what gave birth to my business.
Right.
Yeah,
That was the last thing I was going to ask you about.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know you're
So
very excited about this. Yes.
yeah, so closing the chapter of TRI in Toronto was difficult for me because I fell in love with the whole Toronto vibe. The six, T dot, the CN Tower. Like, and then just I had to make that risk because it just made sense. uh, I think for me, I'm very sentimental. So when I leave a place, it means a lot for me. Like, it took me hours to just say goodbye to my office desk at TRI because there were so much memories. So I think I even teared up. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah.
but I made a lot of great friends from TRI and UFT that fortunately I'm still in touch with. So then when I closed that chapter of TRI, going to Guelph was difficult. But looking back now, 5 years, I think it was the best decision that I made. I've always sort of like when I was in Waterloo, I think leaving Waterloo was easy for me because to be honest, I did not like the vibe at University of Waterloo. It just like it was too pressuring for me. So it was easy for me. But leaving Toronto was hard because I just fell in love with U of T so much more than Waterloo. Uh, Throwing shade on Waterloo here, but um, so the first year at Guelph was difficult. Like I said, single guy who's Muslim, doesn't drink. There's not much nightlife opportunity for me. So I had the time. I had a great office. Like I had time in my office where like what can I do with this time? Uh, I've always had a passion for entrepreneurship. I think this was embedded in my blood from the 5 years in Waterloo, where they just when the whole entrepreneurship thing came to spring, in the late 2010s, 10, like I felt like the university really did a good job of shoving entrepreneurship down everyone's throats. Like you're either an average student or you're a student with a multi-million-dollar idea and you're part of Velocity and you have so much investments. So I didn't like that. I thought it was
Yeah.
toxic. But
Right.
again, I think this idea of the business, like really still like part of it still stuck with me. So I was like, this could be a good idea, but not now. I don't really have a multi-million-dollar idea, so I'll just keep going down the route of applying to grad school. But now, fast forward 5 years after I graduated from U of T, and now here I'm in Guelph, I felt like, okay, now I have the bed or the cushion or the safety nest to start a side hustle. And if it works, it works. If not, I didn't really lose much money because, fortunately, I still have a paying job, you know. So I bootstrapped this business. So what's the business? So basically, coming to Guelph in 2017, the combination of the I would say the a little bit of loneliness coming to a new city, plus my desire to start a business, it really gave me the fuel to think about entrepreneurship. Out of nowhere, one day, my friend sends me an article. Somebody on Reddit writes a 30-day plan on how to start a local business. For me, I never really thought that local business would be so profitable because when you're in like back in the Waterloo days, they always preach that you have to have a multi-million-dollar global changing like idea that has millions of investments. You have to have an app. You have to like et cetera, et cetera. But when I read this article, the author really did a good job of talking about how local businesses like home care, house cleaning, lawn mowing, like how they were so much in demand. And I started a cleaning business called Hellamaid because in the article, through the 30-day plan, the guy says, day one, pick any business. And he's like, house cleaning, lawn mowing, hair cutting, whatever, painting. For some reason, I chose cleaning. I'm not sure why. I just felt like cleaning wasn't seasonal and everyone needs it, whether you're a commercial um, business or residential, homeowner. I felt like house cleaning, whether it's winter or summer, whether it's commercial or residential, I had a lot more prospects. So I chose house cleaning. I bought the name hellamaid.ca for $4 on GoDaddy. I learned how to do I learned how to run a website, get servers, get SSL, talk to different contractors. I lost a lot of money in the beginning because I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. We were in the beginning we were doing like five. Like if I was lucky, we would clean like 4 to 3 houses a week, and now we're at a point where we're cleaning 100 houses a week. So
Whoa! Good
yeah,
for you, man. Holy cow, that's a
thank you,
lot.
thank you. It's a great experience, and I think with time, like you learn a lot about it. So so basically, I'm doing this job right now at the University of Guelph, and I also have my business partner that takes care of operations for my business, Hellamaid. We also have a virtual assistant working from the Philippines. She's taking care of our phone calls and our emails. We have people in I think Albania working. So I think outsourcing is a great tool to utilize if especially if you're trying to run a business. There's just so many components. So outsourcing to virtual assistants, outsourcing to designers, There's a website called Fiverr.com where you can outsource to freelancers. There's also Upwork.com. Facebook has a lot of groups too. But long story short, yeah. So in 2017, I joined in February working at the University of Guelph. 1 month later, I started a business. That's how bored I was. So it
Good for
worked
you.
out.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. So let me ask you: Are you getting close? Do you think there's going to be a point soon where you're going full time into the business? Then
Yeah, I think I hope you don't publish this to any faculty
okay,
or staff, but
we won't. Yeah.
I think I'm thinking about this move very soon because
Yeah.
at some point you can't chase two rabbits at once. That's an old Russian proverb. As much as it's lucrative and nice to do two things at the same time, I think I learned a lot about focus. And even if this job is easy that I'm doing, like it's not that it's easy, but it's at Zen, so it's natural for me.
Mhm.
It's still taking up headspace. Like whether I like it or not, like a lot of my day is going to this job, and there's, I mean, I am still dedicating time to Hellamaid, but I think even my operations partner is like, you know what, Ahmed, I think it would be great to have you join full time soon. And I think the decision uh, really depends on whether you can pay yourself enough. So at the beginning, obviously, like I was making obviously more from my university job than my business. But at some point throughout the years, if it's safe to make that jump,
Hmm.
from your regular paying job to your side hustle, and it can pay you financially, I think you should take a very well calculated risk and say yes. So my advice is don't just drop everything and just start a new business idea. You need money for rent. You need money for food. Um, a lot of people just decide, you know what, I'm quitting full time. I'm going to live in my parents' basement and just work on a business, but they give up too soon because I feel like a side hustle works very well with, like while you're sort of uh, doing a job where you can dedicate enough time to like one business idea, and then you can sort of jump on this boat full time. So I think to answer your question, I'm gonna have to make that decision very soon. I'm coming close to my 5 year mark. I don't see myself working at one job for like 10, 15 years. Even though the pay here is getting better, even though I'm getting good benefits, I just like I just feel like for me, like I'm still young. Although I mean, I just entered my 30s, so I hope I'm still young.
Hmm.
And
You're still
I
young. Yeah,
think
definitely.
yeah. So I'm gonna have to make that jump soon. Yeah.
Very exciting.
It's just that
Wow.
the opportunity of, I just feel like the world of entrepreneurship is very lucrative, like especially now with assets rising very much. Like the price of real estate is like way over the roof. I just feel like this is my own opinion. I just feel like having one salary is isn't enough to really afford you to purchase like a house in Canada anymore, or at least in Ontario. If you have two incomes, like for per household, I think it's more doable. But I think part of this decision making that I'm taking is acquiring more financial independence
Mhm.
through entrepreneurship. Yeah,
Good for you, man.
yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
I see that the time we've passed 3 o'clock. I
For
just
sure.
don't. If you have to run, we can cut it off here now.
Yeah, I think students are coming in 10 minutes.
Okay.
Or,
Well, why don't we wrap it up? Is there anything else I'm sort of imagining the people watching this, it's going to be people from our lab, there's going to be people from Toronto Rehab, there's going to be like students, I think I remember kind of being in that position of wrapping up a degree and thinking about what's next. And I think that's what I'm going to call
for
this
sure.
series is like what's next. Like do you have any other kind of
Yeah,
suggestions on what
for
students should be
sure.
thinking about?
I think maybe just to keep it very simple,
Hmm.
there's just like one term, or like I think it comes under the umbrella of self awareness. uh, it's really sort of outside of like the technicality, or really outside the transcript, the resume. It's really about self-awareness and self-development. Since I'm really passionate about self-development, I just want to sort of point your audience to this one really cool sort of personality assessment that really changed my life and really helped me take uh, the decisions that worked well for my type of personality. There's this thing called 16 personality types. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, Tilak.
No, I haven't,
So,
but I'm gonna make a note and I'll look it up
yeah.
and link it
So if you
here.
search 16 personality types, it's a psychological tool that was developed by Myers-Briggs, and it I took that assessment because I had a breakdown in my life when I was in undergrad. I had finished the co-op term, and my supervisor at the time gave me a very poor evaluation, and it took came to me as a shock because I knew that I did the best that I could at the company and in the team, and then seeing this evaluation from him really took me by surprise. I went back to my co-op career counselor, and I told her this is what happened. Like, I came to work every single morning. I did what I was told to do, and I got a very poor evaluation. Long story short, the career counselor was so helpful, and she introduced me to this thing called 16 personality types.
Mhm.
And long story short, I figured out that working at that kind of team dynamic was unhealthy for who I was. The supervisor that I had was very he was very black and white. He had little to no emotional intelligence that I felt like uh, he didn't see a lot of the stuff, a lot of the true uh, work ethic that I put in. The team members also the same thing. So, long story short, I figured, wow, that wasn't a really healthy workplace for me. Uh, this is a better path for my that goes well with my personality type. So these 16 personality types really helped me with my career decision making. It really helped me with figuring out my strengths and weaknesses. Like for me, uh, I'm more like my strengths. For example, I love to speak. I have a way of teaching, but I also have weaknesses. Like my weaknesses is like don't put me in front of a computer for too long, or else I will lose a lot of energy. I can't type fast, believe it or not. For me, I charge with people. Uh, uh, Another weakness is I also take criticism sensitively. So with learning that, I was able to overcome that feeling and just take advice or criti- or critics with a grain of salt. I just take that lightly. So the 16 personality types is what I love to end it with. To be honest, I think people
Nice.
go through that. Take that honest test. Obviously, take it with a grain of salt. But I guess what I want to invite all of you is to take self awareness and self development seriously. Mental health obviously is a very important topic, and I think before taking care of our jobs, before taking care of our graduate decisions or academic career paths, we should take care of our mind, body, and soul before anything. And the personal self awareness tool that I just mentioned was a great help for me. Of course, there's a lot of other things like I read a lot of books that are sort of like really psychology based and self help based, but I would just really strongly suggest that 16 personalities tool as a good start. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. And now that you mentioned 16 personalities Myers Briggs, I have heard the Myers Briggs uh,
Yeah,
name.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
So
good. I
for,
have
for,
heard of
for those who are curious, my personality type is ENFJ. So it's
it.
like a
Okay.
four code, like ENFJ. So extroversion, intuition, feelings, and judgment. So if you go through that website, it sort of breaks it down for you, but it really guides a lot of the decisions I make, and it's served me well. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Thank you. I know you got to go because you got some students to take care of, but this was
Yeah.
fantastic. It is great to touch base with you. Can I share the news about your family kind of life? You're
For
expecting
sure. Yeah. 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 For sure.
you're expecting a baby. Congratulations,
Thank you.
and
Thank you so
to
much.
you and your
Yeah.
wife. And I hope everything goes well. And yes, let's stay in touch. This is fantastic. It's great
For
catching
sure.
up with you.
Thank you so much, Tilak. I just want to say, yeah, I just want to say thank you again. I feel like you were a pivotal person in my early career. So, from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say I appreciate everything you've done for me, Tilak.
No,
Through
you're very welcome.
through accepting me at TRI and sort of also helping me get this job. So,
Well,
I,
you're
I
very
appreciate
welcome,
it.
and it's
Yeah.
great to see how you're just like this is amazing to see where you are now, and you're about to move on to your next, this new business, and all the best. I really look forward to following you to your the next stage, the next 5 years. Will be
Awesome.
probably very exciting for you, I'm sure.
Thanks, Tilak. Please say hi to the team for me.
Will do.